We want to keep the rhythm of the conference, or change up the rhythm of the conference a little bit. So we'd like to interject activities, in a sense, for you. So the next on the program is community building and a storytelling exercise, which will be led by Urmila Venkatesh. Urmila is currently a coach, facilitator, and assistant director of alumni career education at Stanford University. Her 25-year career in higher education and labor activism most recently involved being a fellow of Stanford's Life Design Lab and assistant dean of career education for PhDs and postdocs at Stanford, supporting doctoral students and postdoctoral scholars across disciplines to develop meaningful careers both in and beyond academia. Her leadership positions in higher education have spanned Stanford University, the New School for Social Research, and the University of Michigan. Urmila has devoted her career to creating greater educational equity and well-being by using tools like design thinking, storytelling, reflective practices, active listening, and experiential learning. Throughout, she has centered her efforts on the needs of marginalized population and is especially dedicated to supporting international students, first-generation students, and women of color in all stages of their academic careers. She holds a bachelor's degree in architecture from the University of California, Berkeley, and a master's degree in fine arts from the University of Michigan. Urmila.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here with new friends and old friends. So, if you can't tell what's about to happen, it's about to get real interactive and reflective, keeping with the theme. So, I'm thinking we get the awkward part out of the way first, right? You just have time to settle in. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing what we ask of our students, to reflect on our lived experiences and then be vulnerable and courageous enough to share those with people we just met. So what I'd like to do is have people get into groups of 3, ideally with people that you don't know, and you're going to be at that table wherever you're at for the next hour, but you get to go back to your seat if you'd like. So here's how this is going to work. We're all very smart people. There's a lot of brains in this room. I know we can do this in under 2 minutes. How many of you, raise your hand if you're sitting next to at least one person that you already know? Okay, so don't worry, I'm not going to test you, but in 2 minutes, let's see if you can essentially reorganize yourselves to get into a group of 3. There's lots of open chairs. And in 2 minutes, we'll just have you sit right back down again. So the idea here is find 3 people together. You're going to make a triad. Try to make at least one of those people somebody you haven't already talked to. Feel free to break up power dynamics, especially. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so this morning has really teed up this exercise so beautifully. In fact, I think the whole purpose of this convening really speaks to what it means to find the power in storytelling. I want to say in particular, Dr. Lamb, something that you said, I'm going to use this as my quote to tee us up. It is crucial to reflect on our own lived experiences as a source of knowledge. It is crucial to reflect on our own lived experiences as a source of knowledge. So that is going to be our guiding principle for today. A brief word on storytelling before we get into it. The reason that I focus on stories, and I'm sure that I've heard the word storytelling shared at least 10 times in the last 3 hours, right? First of all, stories are very memorable. Who remembers that Dr. Lamb grew up on a farm? Right? A tobacco farm. You probably also remember all the other brilliant things that Dr. Lamb shared, but you really remember that point, right? Because it creates an image. Storytelling brings static statements to life. When you have a mission statement, when you have a vision statement, a story about how you got there is what makes that statement make sense. We live in a really static moment. Your LinkedIn page comes up, so this is who I know you to be right now, right? But when I learn how you got there, I start to understand that then it's possible as well, right? So this is why I think there's such an emphasis on our students telling their stories and hearing stories so that they start to understand that they too can grow and transform and that there was a starting point. So that's the second thing. The last thing is that stories are a really great way to understand the aha moment. So it's perfect timing for me to share this right after we heard a bunch of aha moments. Because sometimes aha moments are what we're left with, but we forget that there was a moment before the aha moment that we didn't have the aha moment, right? And so it's really helpful for us to remember how we got there and to help our students get there as well. So this has really been echoed all throughout the morning. So today, the rest of this exercise for this next few minutes is going to be about you figuring out what are your aha moments. What are the aha moments that are, for you, what connect you to this work of identity, agency, purpose, character? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to walk you, now that you've done the real test, which you passed with flying colors, I'm going to walk you through this exercise that you're going to do. I'll walk you through it. You have a handout. You don't need to pull it out just yet, but it's going to be identical to what you see in the slides, and you'll have an opportunity then to do some reflection. All right. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to think about 2 stories of meaningful work or work-related experiences. These could be related to student well-being, something that you do in service of students or learning. Maybe you work with faculty as a consultant. So maybe think about 2 moments in your recent work experience or in your life, even beyond work, if it's meaningful, that have really led you to connect with this work of student well-being. Some ways to think about that are ways to think about moments when you were fully engaged or energized in an activity, or maybe where you overcame a challenge. Perhaps it's a story of how you created or changed something. Maybe you were transformed or changed yourself in some way through your action. Or maybe you had an aha moment, right? That's often the story that comes to mind is, oh, I had this insight. All right, so the way that the storytelling will go is you're going to just come up with 3 basic parts to this story. You're going to figure out what the context is, just enough to set the stage for your listener. So what was your role? Maybe what was the problem in front of you? What were you being asked to get done? Maybe it was just a conversation, so there was no problem to solve. It was just a moment that you were working, for instance, in an advising session with a student. Part B, what did you do? How did you respond in that moment? Was there an aha moment for you? What choices and decisions did you make? What was your knowledge telling you to do? So if part 1 is just context, part 2 is basically response. And then I want you to just think a little bit about the outcome. What actually happened as a result of the choices that you made in that moment? They could be your own learning. It could be a way that you impacted the situation or that you were impacted yourself. And really what's really important is kind of who are you now, right? So you're basically thinking about 2 stories that had some kind of impact on you that sits with you today, ideally as it relates to the work that brings us here today. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you about maybe 10 minutes, maybe 8 to 10 minutes to come up with 2 stories, and you're going to jot down these bullet points. I'll walk through this handout. So there's a handout on the left side of your folder. It says Day 1, the story of self. All you need to know is that basically pages 1 and pages 2 are identical, 1 per story, 1 page per story, and just part A, B, and C so that you have an opportunity to jot down some bullet points. Now remember, no one's going to see this. This is only a guide for you to then verbalize your story with your partners, right? So you're talking about just jotting some things down so you don't forget what to say. Many people get stuck on part A, number 1, right? Okay, well, here's the deal. It was 1947, it was Nebraska. Like, really, you're just setting the stage, and so you want to get as much information over the next several minutes on both of these pages so that you can just prep yourself to tell a story. Now, I can guarantee that some of you hate me right now because you would have liked to know this in advance. And I can guarantee that all of you, after the end of this next 30 minutes, will forget that you were mad at me because you will have made 2 new friends. Okay? All right. There's one more thing I wanted to share. No. So I'm going to play some music, a little bit of light background music so that you can stay focused. I'm going to have you do this. I'll give you a half-time mark. So I think we're going to do about 4 minutes per story. Right now, you're not talking to each other, you're just jotting down some notes so that you'll then be able to share these stories with each other. I'm sorry that we don't have enough time for you to get to know each other and kind of soften the ground a little bit, so be kind, be vulnerable, trust each other. Okay, so for the next 7 to 8 minutes, come up with 2 stories. I'll play some music, and I'll let you know when about halfway is done. Thank you for being so diligent. I'm going to tell you how this next part goes. I know this is called storytelling, and that is the practice that I was talking about earlier. But I want you to now think about this as much a listening exercise. And what does it mean to really be present to the people that you're with? What does it mean to really remember somebody's story? What does it mean to listen so well that you could tell it to somebody else the next day? That's the best advice I ever got as a labor organizer, was listen so closely that you could tell somebody else that story. So I invite you now to think about how you want to be present to your partner. What we're going to do is each of you will have about 8 or 9 minutes in this triad to tell your stories, which should take about 5 or 6 minutes to tell 2 stories without stopping. During this time, listeners, you're going to be listening generatively, sharing observations, maybe even creating some new insights for this person. So let me talk about what that means, generative listening. The first really is you're here to reflect, not to connect. You're here to notice and to appreciate, to affirm. This is not a listening exercise where you need to hold the burden of finding a connection or an overlap with this person. How nice might it be not to have to think about the next thing you're going to say in response, right? You don't have to say anything about yourself in response. You're just here to listen and reflect. I want you to listen actively for particular strengths or skills this person actually might have. This is what we would call tacit knowledge, the things that are so known to us that we become unconscious of them. And find patterns across the 2 stories. Maybe this person's showing up similarly in both instances. So all of this is about your responsibility and, let's say, the gift that you're giving the person who's speaking to reflect things that they may not otherwise know, because we know ourselves now so well that we don't always even know how to articulate it. So that's your job as a listener. So person 1 will go for about 5 or 6 minutes, tell both of your stories. Persons 2 and persons 3 will share back, maybe about 1 to 2 minutes each. Anything you noticed. And on page 3 of your worksheet is just a big blank space if you'd like to take notes as people are speaking so that you can reflect back. I offer you some prompts like, I noticed this pattern. I hear that you really value this thing. It seems like you're really good at or motivated by, and so on. In the interest of eliminating the awkwardness of who goes first, I'm going to say shortest sleeves goes first. At a businessy thing, I think that was a bad choice. It's all long sleeves from here on out, I see. You'll figure it out. So, here's what we'll do. Has everybody identified who goes first? Raise your hand if you're going first. Look at you. All right. So what we will do is you have actually for the next 30 minutes, or it's 11:41 now. So we're going to say at 12:10, I would like us to be back and wrapping up. What that means is if you, as a triad, would like to find a place to sit outside, you're welcome to go. It's about 4,000 degrees out there, so I would not be out there, but some of you are braver than I am. You also have this whole space to move, and it might be nice if you want to take chairs into a particular corner, especially if it gets very loud in here once a bunch of you are talking. So between now and 12:10, I'm asking you to be cognizant of the time, switch about every 10 minutes. I will let you know when 10 minutes have passed if you need that timing. Okay, about 6 minutes per person to talk, about 3 or 4 minutes per person for feedback. Let's say 9 minutes each at this point. If you are in a foursome, I encourage you to switch if you're a 4 into 2 pairs to make sure that you have enough time to speak. Everybody good? See you at 12:10. I'm going to bring us back I'm going to bring us back together. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap twice. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap 3 times. Now just clap for yourselves. That was great. Good job. Okay. There are likely many, many more conversations to be had, and you probably didn't get everything out. That's okay. You also have lunch coming up right after our next session is over. So in the next 2-3 minutes, I'm going to ask you to do a quick reflection. On the last page of your handout, there are several questions that you can go into another time to capture what, if anything, you learned for yourselves. But this is what I would like us to do right now. At the bottom, I'd like you to each just choose for yourselves one of these sentence stems or more. Something I learned about myself is, something that my group shares in common is, something that I am grateful for is, or something to which I feel renewed commitment is. So take 1 minute, jot down for yourselves whatever it is that's generative, and we'll have just a few minutes to get a couple of those voices in the room to share some of those. It would be great to hear, let's say 4 or 5 statements. But just take a minute right now and for yourselves, come up with one sentence. So we have our fabulous CTE staff mic'd in the back, ready to bring mics to you. So what we're going to do, and more folks, great, we've got 3 mics. So what we'll do is I'll just have you raise your hand if you'd like to share something. Now remember, the rule is 1 sentence. I know how complex sentences can be, but it's 1 sentence, subject, verb, object with a period at the end. Okay? Raise your hand if you'd like to share, and it'd be great to get as many as we can. Pick one of these and tell us what that thing is. And as you raise your hand, a mic should appear to you magically.
Yes, magically. So I learned that we can and we do learn from our failures not succeeding as we planned.
Ooh, and let's snap for each one. Go ahead and raise your hands if you have another one, because there are 3 mics, so we can get 3 mics to people. So raise your hand if you have another one. Raise your hand so that mic will go there, right there next to you. Okay, go ahead.
Perfect. Something that we found was something that our group shares is connection, empowerment, and building around sense of belonging.
Ooh, okay, love it. Next.
Something that I learned about myself is I need to take care of myself in order to be of maximum service to others.
Oh, thank you. Okay, keep raising your hands if you want a mic.
Something that our group shared is we care about the journey, not just the end.
Oh, beautiful. Other comments? Right here.
Something that I'm grateful for is my role to shape student success, and I think that was also common here at our table.
2 for 1. I love it. Any other comments? Anyone else want to share? Something we haven't heard yet. Such a quiet bunch. What happened? Here's the mic right here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So something that I learned about myself is that I am energized by others' good work.
Ooh, nice. Beautiful.
Hello. Something my group shares is the importance of intellectual humility and curiosity for the seeds of transformational change.
Oh, love it. Okay, how about one more? Right here.
All right, I'm coming.
Our group shared a commitment to breaking down barriers to communication and empowering communication to solve tough problems.
Nice, thank you. All right, let's give ourselves a round of applause. That was excellent. I'm so happy that you were ready, game, willing to play the game of Story of Self. Tomorrow we'll continue with a second session that wraps up the conference, the story of us and the story of now. If anyone's a fan of Marshall Gans, you know where I'm going with this. Okay, thank you so much. We're on to the next event.